very, sympathetic, empathetic about it. And then there's some other issues. And then I kind of feel like these individuals have a great argument. Don't shut us down. That's the headline in the Chicago Sun-Times today. There are Arab and Asian American gas station owners that are alleging that they are being racially targeted by city code inspectors. Joining us on the live line is Ray Hanania. He's a writer at Arab Daily News and the Arab News in Saudi Arabia, and he is a great Facebook agitator. Hi, buddy Ray. How you doing?
Perri, if you and I had gotten married when I was at City Hall, they would have accused me of exploiting the African American community. So that's the only thing that stopped it. I just want you to know that.
So anyway, Ray, why don't you tell our listeners what is the issue? How often is this happening? I do know that about 300 Arab businesses are alleged to have been closed by the city, or not 300 businesses, but 300 jobs have been lost. So tell our listeners what this issue is all about, and what are these business owners planning to do?
Here, basically, there are about 300 Arab American businesses in the city. Many of them are in the toughest neighborhoods. Many of them are in places that no one else wants to open a store. You don't see Mariano's there. You don't see Dominic's. You don't see, these other big stores. So they work there. Some of them have problems, obviously, but the majority of them are good people. They hire people in the neighborhood. They donate to the neighborhood. They give money. They try their best to be good people. Are they making money? Absolutely. Every one of these gas stations generates $50,000 in revenue a month. But a lot of that money goes to the city in retail taxes and gasoline taxes, and for all the employees. 300 people have lost their jobs just on the closure of like 50 of these businesses over the last 2 months. And all these guys are asking is, these owners, all they're asking is, listen, if there's a citation that you think I have to change, I'll change it, but don't shut me down for a week or a month. This is intentional. This is the mayor targeting Arab businesses, and I think for two reasons, because we've heard it from the inspectors.
Okay.
One is some people in the community, there have always been tensions between African Americans and Arab grocers. So that's part of it. She's pandering to that group, I think. But the other side of it is she hasn't been able to do anything about street gangs. And she's trying to allege, and she won't come out and say it openly, but they're trying to allege, according to some of the inspectors, that these gas stations are magnets for gangbangers who hang around there and then go out and do what they do, because they're open 24 hours. So if we shut them down, maybe the gangbangers will go someplace else and kill people someplace else. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
So let me just say this, Ray Hanania. You did say that there has been somewhat of a contentious relationship of some members from the black community and these different Arab and Asian store owners, okay? Part of the reason is there, and I never had to frequent pretty much any of these different places, but our listeners have, and I've heard these complaints for decades. Number one, that they disrespectful. Number two, I'm just gonna say the disrespect of black women and the exploitation of black women and girls in the community. Not only that, selling death. And when I talk about selling death, they sell things in our community that they would never sell in their own communities. And granted, these people want these things, and they choose death by getting Swisher Sweets and all of these different cigars so they can roll blunts and all of that. But I don't think it's fair for the city to come down on them because they're pandering to a group. If this is the issue, or if the community has these kind of issues with a particular grocer, corner store owner, or gas station owner, then just tell them what they think the issues are. Do some
Exactly.
I mean, I agree. Do some of these corner store or convenience store owners allow these gangbangers or, wannabe gangbangers or just rotten people to hang around their stores? Absolutely. Do they do a good enough job of cleaning around their stores and making it so that it will not be a magnet to that type of element? I always say, gangbangers, bad people, crooks, the last thing they like is pretty. And so if they don't hang around nice places. So, I mean, I thought that there was a program with the city where they were doing facades. They were helping different businesses do facades. And I've seen that. I've seen, where they have done that. So I don't think it's fair to do that, but I also think that they need to have better relations with the people within the community. Now, there was...
But
go ahead.
It's I'm sorry. It's every community. It's not because they're Arab. Mm-hmm. These Arabs went into the African American and even the Hispanic community because nobody else would. And you want to know the truth? The reason they went into the African American and Hispanic community was because the white community didn't want us. So some of us,
they didn't want them.
Areas,
right.
They wouldn't let us open, and when we opened, they protested. In Oak Lawn, they shut down how many of these stores, a decade ago. But the problem is bigger than that. I work with the American Arab Chamber of Commerce, Hanania.
Right.
These are good people. The majority are good people. Every group has bad people.
Right.
And when a store is bad, we need to organize and either get them together to correct what they're doing, work with the community, or kick them out. We don't want to work with communities like that, with businesses like that, because they don't make us look good.
So what does that say? That the only reason, for the most part, they're in the Black and Hispanic communities is because other communities, like out there in Oak Lawn, didn't want them there. So are you saying that, last choice? I mean, they want to open businesses, but why can't they open businesses in their communities, in Bridgeview and all of these other places, or where there are large, or Palos Heights or something, where there are large Arab communities? And this is the other question. What else would be there if they weren't there?
That's true, but listen, it isn't like they opened businesses yesterday. Most of these businesses have been around 30, 40 years. When they opened their stores, it was at a time when white communities did not want Arabs. They looked at us like African Americans. They treated us like black people. We were discriminated. I'd go into a white community and they'd look at me and they told me we moved into the Bogan High School area in the late 1960s, and they told me that I shouldn't be at the school because I was too dark. They kicked me out of Bogan High School, said I should go to Calumet High School because they said that's where your people are going to be. So I know what it's like to be discriminated. Every Arab goes through that. But we're talking about Arab businesses that have been there 30, 40 years. It's not like they moved in there today. Their community is spread out all over. We're forcing our existence, in white areas. But the black community was always more welcoming to Arab businesses than any other community because we were dark. We shared the experience. Are there some businesses that are troublemakers? Absolutely. There's no ethnic group that doesn't have a group that are troublemakers and cause problems. But I'm telling you that we don't want those people. I don't want to be associated with them.
Right.
The Arab American Chamber doesn't want to be associated with them. But all we're asking is from a mayor who said she is against discrimination and racism. And to us, it's the hypocrisy where you say one thing and do something else. If she does that with us, what is she doing to you that you don't know about because you feel, oh, she's, African American?
Well, that doesn't matter. For a lot of our listeners aren't very, they're not very enamored with the mayor for whatever reasons. I've been able to, to foster a relationship with her, but I don't throw her softball questions, and I'm going to ask her about this.
She won't even. Yeah, ask her. She won't even do an interview with me. I covered 7 mayors.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, is it because she's black? No. You know what the problem is? It's her politics. She's no different than Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel refused to do any interviews with me, too. So these last 2 mayors have been the worst to me. And is it because I'm Arab and they don't want to talk about Middle East issues? No. They just don't like me. And I don't know what the reason is, but she's no different than Rahm Emanuel. I don't look at her as criticizing her because she's black or African American. I'm criticizing her because it's hypocrisy to say you stand up against racism and then turn around and you pick on an easy to criticize community and then be racist.
I just want to tell my listeners, if they don't remember, you were probably one of the fairest when it came to the covering of Harold Washington than the rest of those people that were in the City Hall.
He was a great mayor.
You were very fair to him.
He had a sense of humor. He would talk to us. He's the one who created the Arab Advisory Commission that Rahm Emanuel destroyed.
Yeah.
He was the one that helped put the, Arab American Festival that Rahm Emanuel destroyed. Rahm Emanuel destroyed everything that had to do with the Arab community. And the worst part, though, it's not the African American community that's our biggest problem. You know what our biggest problem is in the Arab community?
What?
The Arab community. As soon as one Arab does something, 50 others want to do the same thing. 50 other Arabs want to tear him down so they could do better. We destroy ourselves.
Wow, it sounds a lot like the black community. I guess we do have a lot in common. Stay with us, Ray. 773-591-1690. We have a bank full of calls. We'll get to you, and I'll wrap up with Ray. And stay with us. We'll be right back.
Keep current with all the hot news trends by tuning into the only urban talk station on iHeartRadio. We are the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. The Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
It is 9:54 on the Talk of Chicago. The American Arab Chamber of Commerce of Chicagoland said dozens of gas stations have been closed. The group of business owners estimates the recent closures have resulted in a loss of more than 300 jobs. Inspectors have allegedly told some owners they are closing stores to discourage gangs from congregating near the businesses. 2 weeks ago, a deputy mayor, as well as several senior departmental leaders from the Department of Buildings, Business Affairs, and Consumer Protection and the Chicago Police Department hosted a roundtable for these very businesses, according to the mayor. And as a follow-up to the request from business owners, the city is providing a business liaison and teams and code checklists to businesses to engage on affirmative compliance. One Alderman Raymond Lopez, from the 15th Ward, He said he supports the business owners and argued that shutting down stores will prove ineffective in reducing crime. And in addition to being offered little time and resources to correct the violations, the gas station owners say they have been subject to harassment by inspectors who express disdain because of, in their quote, our Arab heritage and Muslim religion, according to a letter. And you know what, Ray? Many of our listeners say that same type of bias oftentimes comes from owners at these stations. And I can say not all of these stations or convenience stores are bad. But for the most part, and in the worst communities, they have been safe havens for gang activity, drug sales, and the exploitation of women and girls, black women and girls. So how do we correct it, Ray?
Listen, the way to correct it is not to respond with racism. The mayor's meeting that she held, the mayor didn't have a meeting with everybody. She invited selected people that she's worked with. She didn't invite the Arab business people. She didn't invite, the Arab American Chamber of Commerce. I'm telling you, it's all hooey from her.
Okay.
She did nothing. So, I mean, yes, if we, in a perfect world, if there was a business that had a problem, we would come down on them because they make all of us look bad. But the way to do it is not to target every business, make us look even worse. All that's going to do is create animosity between people in the neighborhood and the store owners. And I'm telling you, if these store owners go, who's going to take those stores?
And that is a great question, Ray. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Ray, you got to come back again. And I should have took you up on your marriage proposal years ago. Anyway.
I love it, Perri. You're great.
All right. Thank you so much. We've got a lot to talk about. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of you are not happy, but that's okay. We'll discuss it when we come back. And now, what are in the headlines, Candace?